Good afternoon, everyone. This is the Standing Committee on Citizenship and Immigration, meeting number 49, Tuesday, June 19, 2012. The orders of the day. This meeting is televised and is pursuant to Standing Order 1082, study standing on guard for thee, ensuring that Canada's immigration system is secure. In other words, it's a study of the security of the immigration system. We have, for the first hour, some guests who are appearing before us, two groups, the Defence Research and Development Canada, Pierre Meunier, who is the Manager of Surveillance, Intelligence and Interdiction, Centre for Security Science. Good afternoon, Monsieur Meunier. We have NextGen ID Canada, Inc., and with us is the Senior Vice President of Corporate and Business Development, Robert L. Bell. Good afternoon, Mr. Bell. And finally, Hélène Arnon, Vice President of Technology Solutions. Good afternoon to you. So, how we will work this afternoon is that each group will have up to 10 minutes to make a presentation, and then members of the committee will follow with any questions if they have, and I'm sure they will. We will start with Monsieur Meunier.
Thank you. My name is Pierre Meunier, and as you said, I am the Portfolio Manager for Surveillance, Intelligence and Interdiction at the Defence Research and Development Canada Centre for Security Science. This portfolio includes leading a community of practice on biometrics for national security. I would like to provide you with an overview of who we are, what we do, and our relationship with federal government partners and the broader public safety and national security community. I will then provide you with a brief outline of some of the work that we've invested in surrounding biometrics and what expertise we can contribute to support the exploration of biometrics technology in Canada. The Centre for Security Science was established through a Memorandum of Understanding between the Department of National Defence and Public Safety Canada and is managed by the Defence Research and Development Canada, a special operating agency under the Department of National Defence. The Centre's mission is to pull requirements and priorities from the policy and operational communities and task the science and technology community and government, industry, and academia to develop solutions and provide advice which address these priorities. The Centre's staff include scientists and engineers with a wide range of relevant experience who also possess expertise in areas such as capability-based planning, risk assessment, operational research, knowledge management, project management, community building, and the application of scientific methodologies. They are therefore well positioned to provide trusted advice. Over the years, the Centre for Security Science has built a network of experts it can draw upon to serve the needs of the federal government and the broader public safety and security communities. Through hundreds of projects and activities, the Centre and its partners have improved Canada's capabilities, ensuring that responders, planners, and policy and decision makers have access to the scientific and technical knowledge, tools, processes, and advice they need to protect Canada's interests. As mentioned, one of my roles as the Portfolio Manager for Surveillance, Intelligence and Interdiction is to lead the Biometrics for National Security Community of Practice. It's important to note that as a Portfolio Manager, my role is to oversee projects and activities that foster collaborative efforts between experts. I'm not a leading-edge technical expert in any individual biometrics technology per se. However, my engineering and scientific background, combined with my interactions with national and international partners, has allowed me to gain an appreciation of how all the pieces of biometric security fit together. The Biometrics for National Security Community of Practice brings together key stakeholders from federal departments and agencies responsible for national security, law enforcement, and immigration to discuss and study technical issues surrounding the use of biometrics technology in Canada, as well as identify and address capability gaps. To date, this community has undertaken a number of biometric studies looking at the performance of various technologies in different operational settings and examining privacy protective measures. In addition to these studies, experts have come together on a number of occasions to discuss issues and to raise awareness of what different departments are doing in this area and to share best practices. These discussions provide valuable knowledge and guidance for future investments to support the further development of this capability. DRDC also has experts in systems engineering, including skills and knowledge in areas such as design, testing, data management, and pattern recognition, all of which can be applied to understanding biometric systems. Bringing this type of technical expertise to the table is what the Center for Security Science can offer to support departments and agencies responsible for national security, law enforcement, and immigration in making decisions surrounding the technical requirements and performance factors of biometrics. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Bell.
Mr. Chairman, honorable committee members, we are pleased to appear before you on this important study that is examining the security of Canada's immigration system. As someone who has been active in the field of biometrics for close to a decade, allow me to begin my remarks by noting how encouraging it is to see that biometrics is specifically included as one of the subject areas of your study. That realization that biometric identification technology has an integral role in immigration strategies is, in my view, significant. NextGen ID has worked with a number of governments at initial stages to help them determine if they should use biometrics, and if so, which biometrics for passports and for border control. We have then participated in delivering technology and systems to help these countries implement face and fingerprint biometrics for passport, visa, and national ID issuance, as well as for border control. My colleague, Mr. Alain Arnon, has been the key technical person on many of these projects and will be able to answer your questions with first-hand experience on such projects around the world. I'll begin by discussing examples of security gaps and some specific opportunities to deploy biometrics to strengthen our immigration system. Deploying the right biometrics in the right applications will unquestionably improve both the security of our immigration system and the expedited clearance of legitimate travelers. Our work has been focused on face recognition, fingerprint, and iris biometric systems, which I would suggest are the only biometrics suited to the identification requirements associated with immigration and border control. Any system such as that seeks to verify identities and detect persons on a watch list. I would like to address three specific security gaps that can be filled in part by the use of biometrics. One relates to visa issuance, the second relates to identity confirmation at the border, and the third is a bad guy lookout at the border, basically surveillance, looking for faces and seeing if those people are on the bad guy list. For visa issuance, the government is currently planning to capture fingerprints and face images during the application process. This isn't in place yet, but this is something that's just under initial contract at this point, and I'm sure you're aware. These fingerprints will be used as the biometric to confirm the identity of the traveler on arrival. So if you issue the visa, you make sure that the person that's coming to the border is actually the person he says he is. This is a commendable first step. However, I would suggest three ways in which this can be improved for a relatively low incremental cost. Given that the face is being captured, facial recognition can be used to check if the applicant is on Canada's bad guy list. Remember, for a known terrorist, there will probably be a photo, but it is unlikely there will be a fingerprint on file. A face can be captured upon arrival, and facial recognition can then be used to confirm the identity of the visa holder. Review of a possible match can be performed immediately by an immigration officer with minimal training, unlike the case of fingerprint. You need an expert. If a potential face match is found, then fingerprint can be used as an alternate biometric at secondary check. So that's visa issuance. Second item is identity confirmation at the border. When a person arrives at our border, he or she is either known or unknown. Known travelers have been pre-screened through the visa application program. or the Trusted Traveler program. A trusted traveler simply has to confirm that he or she is the rightful holder of the passport. Iris recognition is used for trusted travelers, and as noted, fingerprint is planned for use for visa travelers. Canada is looking to extend the participation in the Trusted Traveler program, CanPass Nexus. Beyond this, the advent of e-passports will make the use of biometrics to screen all travelers possible and practical. For example, in Australia, at all airports, the e-passport is read, then a live image is captured and compared with that on the e-passport to determine the authenticity of the traveler. New Zealand and a number of European countries are moving in this direction as well. So they're automating their processes. This means that a good forged document will be not sufficient to gain entry into Canada. This approach is also leading to automation using e-gates at the border to quickly screen low-risk travelers and enable the immigration officers to focus on the high-risk individuals. Canada should be planning to use this approach for e-passport holders from the U.S. and visa waiver countries. Canada will start issuing e-passports this year, and the other countries have already been doing so for some time. A following step would then be to effectively extend the border perimeter by conducting the same identity verification checks at the point of embarkation or before. Let's know who they are before they get on the plane coming to Canada. The third item I wanted to deal with is bad guy lookout. Currently at our border control positions, there are video cameras deployed to capture and record the passage of travelers through the border. This provides a good record to support an investigation if there has been an incident at the border. However, it does not support facial recognition or watch list checks that would allow a proactive response. With the creation and maintenance of a watch list of persons of interest, these same cameras, perhaps with different camera lenses or positioning, could also act as face recognition cameras. The face images could be captured and compared against the watch list. If there is a potential match, this could be reviewed or adjudicated by the officer at the border post or at a central location, and the traveler could be sent to secondary inspection if required. If cameras are set up for identity verification, as mentioned earlier, then of course the same captured face could be used for a watch list check. So I've been talking about face recognition. Why face? For these applications, face is the best, and in some cases the only biometric that would be effective. For identity verification at the border, face is the only mandatory biometric on the e-passport. So it is the only biometric that can be used for the over 100 countries that will be issuing e-passports by the end of the year. For bad guy lookout, face is the only biometric for which there is likely an available image to verify against, and the only biometric that can be easily captured at a distance. Face recognition works well and is proven in countries around the world for the applications recommended. I guess the question is, we've talked about technology, but is there a problem? And I think it is clear from the press, and I think you people would probably know better than I, that there are a significant number of persons that commit crimes in Canada, are arrested, charged, tried, and convicted of these crimes, and then deported, only to come back under another identity to do that same thing again. On the CIC website, there are 5 examples of people that have been deported for serious crimes, only to return, some in 3 times, one 17 times as repeat offenders. And they come back and they commit crimes again and they're removed from the country. There's a cost to society that can be largely eliminated with the proposed bad guy lookout. Mr. Chairman, let me close my remarks by noting that as someone who has worked in the industry for years, I am greatly encouraged when I see studies such as this committee is undertaking and initiatives such as Bill C-31, which expressly authorizes taking of biometrics and enabling what is, in effect, a bad guy lookout system at the border. What categories of persons should be included in such a bad guy database is a policy decision for government. government to make, but it is important to you that you appreciate how the technology itself supports such efforts. Canada is clearly moving towards a screening and security approach in the Canada-US border agreement and in our recent adherence to the five-party conference, that's Canada, the US, UK, New Zealand, Australia, on biometric data sharing to prevent immigration fraud. Biometrics is a technology that can significantly enhance the security of our immigration and border systems while also expediting the clearance of legitimate travelers. I hope these opening remarks have been of assistance, and I look forward to any questions that you may have on the subject. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Mr. Bell. Mr. Meunier, your comments have been helpful, and we appreciate you bringing your expertise to help us with this report in order that we can make give some comments to the House of Commons. The first person to ask you questions is Mr. Menengakis.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and I want to first of all begin by thanking you for being here and testifying before us today. This, as you can well appreciate, is a very important study for us and a very important initiative because we feel as a government, and let me just say as a parliament, it is our responsibility to ensure the safety of our Canadian citizens, and certainly it is critically important for us to identify individuals prior to them entering our country, living in our neighborhoods, going to school with our kids, and shopping where we shop. So it really has become an increasing concern given the creative ways in which those that would participate in illicit activity can find to enter our country, which by many accounts is one of the most welcoming countries in the world in which to live. So I'd be interested in, have a number of questions here for you. In your opinion, under our current system, how successful has Canada been at preventing criminals from entering our border from source countries?
Addressing that too.
Yeah, my questions are to all of you, so I wouldn't mind hearing from all or some or as you wish.
I think that's sort of a government question, but do you have any?
I'm afraid I don't have an answer to that. It's not appropriate for me to comment. We're focusing on the technology aspects that could be brought to bear on this in the future or in the near future, not looking at the past performance issues.
Mm-hmm. The thought I have is we do a lot of work around the world, and I see each country struggling with how do I make our borders stronger. And as I speak with the people, they have countless examples of gaps in their system, just like I talked about here.
Yeah, sure.
And I think everybody around the world is struggling to tighten those. Some are farther ahead than others, but I think we don't carefully screen the people that are coming in from a face recognition point of view, and I think one can also look at the exit controls. I don't think we have any exit controls, so part of what's the Beyond the Borders initiative will get to is, at least on the U.S. border, some exit control as well.
Thank you. Did you want to add anything, Mr. Arnott, or are you okay with that?
The only thing I could add is that, to follow on what Robert just said, we don't do anything at the moment to capture any kind of biometric, and really it's a simple process. Someone has to cooperatively look at a camera, let's say, to capture a simple image, which everyone knows how to do, simpler than a fingerprint. Fingerprint's the next step maybe, but even just to capture a facial image. And I think as Bob mentioned in his remarks, there is a camera currently at every immigration desk. It's not being used to capture faces, it's more just to surveil the area. Mm-hmm. So there are some simple things that can be done to take a big step in enhancing the usability of biometrics.
Well, certainly on the issue of biometrics, we've heard from a number of witnesses here on this committee, and it's been described by several as a 21st century identification tool. it seems to be pretty accurate and a lot better than the current system that we have now. Do you think biometrics should be collected only for temporary resident visas, or should it be used for everyone entering Canada? What are your thoughts on that? And we can start with you if you like, Mr. Munier, and then we can continue.
I certainly believe that the technology has improved to the point where it can handle large volumes. The accuracy keeps improving, and the technology is just at that stage now where it's ready for use, and other countries have realized that. And I think we're getting into that direction. I look at what Citizenship and Immigration are planning in the years ahead. And I think that biometrics will go a long way in helping. That's
one of the things that I see as we've been going through helping people move to an e-passport is once you have e-passports, you place the passport on the reader, you take the picture, you've confirmed the identity. When I'm coming across the border, you don't have to ask me all these skill testing questions to see if I really am the person I am. I've proven it. I think I'd be happier if as a person if I just did that and was able to go through. And it does lead then to automating the border such that low-risk passengers, travelers can go through the border easily without even going through a staff location. So I think if you looked at biometrics for everybody, you'd want to do it so that it was facilitating and speeding up the process rather than really for a security point of view. And those are the two things that we end up doing with biometrics, facilitation and enhancing security. You get both.
Mr. Arning, care to add something?
Just to add that, of course, in any immigration area, airports are similar. There's a lot of capturing of imagery through surveillance cameras, and while those images are not necessarily of the quality needed for biometrics or facial recognition, we are capturing a lot of images. So just to go the small extra step of capturing an image where we know it's going to be usable for biometrics will serve to add a lot of security.
Thank you. You have about 20 seconds if you can say goodbye.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair.
Ms. Simms.
Chair, and thank you for your presentations today. As you know, with biometrics, we've expressed some concerns in the past around privacy issues, and the collection of, and that still remains to be a major concern for us. And one of the documents we had asked for, and I'm sure that my colleagues remember, was for the government to provide us with a privacy impact statement for Bill C-31, and I think we're still waiting for that in one way or another. It would be good to get a copy of that report, even though Bill C-31 has passed us by. But when we met with the Privacy Commissioner, Jennifer Stoddard, this is what she had to say. As the honourable members certainly know, the Privacy Act imposes obligations whenever the federal government collects personal information. Federal agencies must ensure certain safeguards, must limit secondary use, and must list their data holdings publicly, irrespective of the citizenship of the individuals involved. Also, should any legislative or regulatory changes be made to the immigration system, I would expect to receive detailed privacy impact statements from the appropriate institutions. Now, we know that the Senate has begun its hearings on C-31, and we're certainly hoping that at least in that other place, they will be provided with the privacy impact assessments as they are going through the hearings, even though we didn't have them. So my questions, and I've got brief questions, but I'm going to give them to you a couple at a time. When governments outsource the collection of biometric data to private companies like NextGen ID, what is done to ensure Canada's privacy laws are being respected? A, and B, how is the data retained and stored, and how many people would have access to it?
Let's go back to the preamble where you're talking about the Privacy Commissioner. That is an essential component in any country that we go into. We and our customer work with the Privacy Commissioner to make sure that we're meeting the laws of the country. So what you're expecting regarding the implementation of biometrics is, and what she's asking for is consistent with what we see elsewhere. When we put a biometric system in place, we provide the system, but the government owns the data. So we really separate the technology to collect the data from the data itself. So the government usually is the one that has access to the data, that manages the data, sets the policies for retention and expunging of the data. And so it's really not a private contractor's role, and our role would be similar to any other contractor, but it's really our customer's role.
Okay. So basically what you're saying is that has nothing to do with you, because you only provide the technology. It's the government that
It's the owner of the system,
okay.
who's the operator of the system, who is, I would think in this case, would certainly be CBSA, someone that's charged with the security at the border.
Okay, thank you. So I'm going to ask you the next question, and you may have a similar answer, so I'm prepared for that. Which internal and external sources could this information be used by or disclosed to?
What we have seen is there's a solid, the government's put in place a very solid firewall around the information that they're gathering and control access.
So what firewall do we have that you know of?
Well, to a large extent, we're not collecting, Canada is not collecting biometric data. They are collecting surveillance information, and I don't know the answer to the question. Do you know the answer, what we do with policies for surveillance information?
No, I'm afraid not.
Well, I think for me it goes to the next stage, because here we're pursuing the use of biometric data to, for visas, the three categories you talked about. So obviously I'm looking for answers to those questions, and I'm hoping a different witness will be able to provide us with those answers, because they're very, very specific.
Don't look at me for answers. I'm just like you,
yeah.
learning what's going on.
So really, once again, I understand you provide the system, you don't provide how the system is managed. So I'm sure your answer is going to be identical for the next one. So you don't know how long the data will be kept for, and when the data will be destroyed. For example, is it only for identity verification, and then as soon as identity has been verified, will the data be expunged? Or once a tourist leaves?
Again, it is the government's policies that we would follow, and we would set it up. Our technology is flexible. Some implementations that we do for identity verification, it's exactly as you've described. You verify the identity, the data is expunged. In other cases, people say, I want an entrance record and an exit record from my border, and so that information is retained for a period of time to support investigations if there are incidents that are subsequent.
So let me just be clear. For example, I live in India. I used to up to the age of 10. Anyway, so it's a real example.
Seconds.
Okay. So once I arrive and my biometrics are taken, I have no guarantee when they will be expunged.
Well, I think the policy should be publicized. Whatever the government policy is, In other cases, it's always been publicized. We will keep this data under these circumstances for this long, and I would expect that the government of Canada would do exactly that.
I'm
Thank
really
you.
looking
Thank you.
forward to that policy.
Mr. Lamoureux.
I want to get right into what the government is proposing to do. We need to be very clear on this, is that to move towards biometrics in dealing with temporary visas. So that's visiting visas, working visas, and so forth. Now, my understanding is that what they're talking about when they think of biometrics is the live picture and the fingerprints. Is that a fair comment to the best of your knowledge?
Partly correct. What they're doing, as I understand it, is they're capturing the live face image when you go to apply for a visa. They're capturing your fingerprints, and then they store the picture and they use fingerprint as the biometric for matching.
Okay. So now, in the future, because they're doing it in a couple of ways, okay? In the future, anyone that's going to be receiving a visiting visa or a working visa or a student visa is physically going to have to go down to some form of a government agency in order to get that picture taken, in order for that picture to be effective whatsoever. Was that a fair assessment? Because you couldn't just go to the old camera shop here and here's the picture that I had taken.
No.
You'd have to go to that government-sanctioned agency, correct?
Since you have to go in person to give your fingerprints, it's very easy to also get your face image captured at the same time. So you will have to go to a specific location.
Right. So right today, you're not required to go down to an embassy or an immigration office. You can do it via courier, for example, and that's quite often what is done. So with this change in policy, in order to be effective for biometrics, we need to be clear that they will have to go to a government agency of sorts, ideally the embassy or a consul office, in order to have implement an effective biometric program, correct?
I believe that's the case. Some countries are establishing relationships with other countries. I believe that the 5 countries I mentioned, the UK, US, Australia, New Zealand, Canada, are cooperating, will have similar standards.
Right.
So it may be possible for you to go to one of those other locations as well.
Okay.
So that will give you some diversity, some places where if Canada is not represented, perhaps the U.S. is.
But at the very least, in terms of when you think of biometrics, it has to maintain, at the very least, the live picture and the fingerprints.
Yeah.
Okay. What about the idea of the iris scan? Do you see that being implemented in shortly? Like, is that something that's down 5 years away, 2 years? Has there been any discussions in regards to the iris scan?
For iris, as I understand it, there is provision to have iris as an alternate biometric on your passport. The e-passport, the only mandatory biometric is face. So most countries are just putting the face image on the chip.
Right.
Some, and European countries, for example, are putting fingerprint. I know of no countries that are planning on putting iris on at this time.
Now, does Canada even have the capacity to be able to do iris scans when you think of the offices abroad, because they would all have to have proper capital equipment? Is that something that's even...
It would be possible, and it's not that expensive. I mean, if you're going in there, I mean, we make a product that captures face, fingerprint, and iris. Right. And so that's not impossible.
Sure. What's in terms of a cost, and I guess I would ask for your guesstimate, what should be the cost of being able to get a fingerprint and a live picture if the government wanted to be able to make a charge for that?
That's such a good question, and I wish I had a direct answer. Let me.
Yeah.
Can I come back to you as I'm thinking?
By all means.
Okay.
I think it's important that we need to recognize the changes that the government is making is going to have an impact on an individual's ability to acquire one of these temporary visas, and in 2 ways. One is that there is a potential cost that has not been debated, and the other is that there's going to have to be that physical presence. And I just wanted to get that on the record because that is something that's not been talked about really to date.
Can I just add something to that?
Of
course, if you're going to capture fingerprint or iris, you do have to go physically to the office of enrollment or the consulate, etc. But there is an option if you're just going to capture face to submit that electronically with today's electronic cameras, and there's ways of automatically verifying that the image meets a certain quality standard to make it usable for facial recognition.
Thank you, Mr. Aron. Mr. Opitz.
To our witnesses. In fact, it all exists now. I've got a Nexus card, and you know it didn't cost that much. I think it was about $50 US at the time to process this, where I got my fingerprint scanned without ink, just on an electronic scanner, the iris scan, and the photograph taken. And this is providing me, to your point, Mr. Bell, with a tremendous amount of convenience getting through the lines and airport lines fairly quickly, because this is, in fact, a trusted traveler type program, right? So it does provide an awful lot of benefit to a lot of people who do, in fact, travel frequently and go between various countries. So that's I found this to be an invaluable tool. And so, but thank you all, by the way, for coming, and DRDC as well. I've worked with them peripherally in the past in my military days, and they're a tremendous organization as well that does some great scientific work on behalf of Canada, and there's a lot of great work that comes out of theirs. And I know you guys are leading edge, technical folks that are coming up with a lot of these innovations that will help keep Canada safe in the long run, because as many of us have discussed, one of the reasons we're talking about biometrics is from a security standpoint. Mr. Mounier, you're working in particular on you said you're the portfolio manager for surveillance, intelligence, and interdiction. So you're working on biometrics from essentially a national security point of view. So I'm going to start with you, sir. And so overall, what is your opinion of biometrics? And what is your opinion of its effectiveness as a tool to prevent fraud and maintain either apprehend or keep out of the country security threats of varying levels?
Well, there are a number of aspects to this, to the effectiveness of biometrics. There's the policy side of things, there's the technology side of things, and there's the standard operating procedures that one might use to control the flow of people and provide the interdiction and get the intelligence and get a system to work as a whole with the various departments that do the collection of biometrics. And the best example that I've seen so far is in our neighbors to the south, where they've invested a lot in the development of biometrics, and we owe them a great debt for that, because technology wouldn't have evolved as quickly. And they've also provided a model for us to follow in the various aspects, integrating the Department of Defense, integrating DHS U.S. visit, and the FBI database. And that model is we've seen it in action in a recent visit to 8 agencies in the U.S. that collect and manage biometrics. And I was very impressed. It does work. It works very well. It's a matter of implementing the right policies and procedures, in my view.
And by using that system, when you observed it, did they talk about the numbers of security threats or some sort of quantifiable indicator of its effectiveness against security threats?
Oh yes, indeed. There's a whole list. If you want to talk to the folks in the U.S. visit program, they can tell you how many thousands and hundreds of thousands that are refused access or refused work, or once the system's integrated like this, it works very well, and it's effective. I saw it to be, my assessment is that it was very effective.
Great. What do you think are still some of the specific deficiencies that exist here to identify foreign nationals? Would you make any recommendations to CIC and CBSA?
Recommendations to CIC as such, no. I mean, I think they're definitely on the right track, and they've been at it for a number of years, and they've done a good job, in my view, of integrating the pieces that they need I can't comment on the policies or the standard operating procedures. I'm just looking at the architecture and how the various components that they bring together, and all the elements are there. We may be a little bit late out of the gate in Canada using biometrics, but that's an advantage in that we're starting from the second or third generation, if you will, and ramping right up to a high level.
Well, when you were in the States, the electronic travel authorization, the entry-exit, with the perimeter agreement, would you agree that that will be an effective element in making sure that our borders on both sides are protected?
My opinion and my feeling is that yes.
It's an opinion, sure.
Yes.
Mr. Bell, just quickly, because I think I'm probably running out of time soon. In terms of the equipment and the development of equipment and economy of scale, my honourable friend mentioned the costs overall, but when you develop this equipment and it gets widely distributed, would you agree that then any costs associated to it tend to go down based on distribution, use, and...
Well, certainly. I think that the costs of the individual sensors are low. I mean, looking at a camera that's, I don't know, $500. I mean, you're looking at devices that are $1,000, $2,000 to capture fingerprints. So you're looking at quite inexpensive devices. We're not looking at a lot of border points in Canada. I mean, would 600 be a good estimate as to where?
Yeah. So it's a very relative, the capital cost of it all is fairly low given the numbers of years that it would be in service.
I think so. I did actually do estimates for the deployment of face recognition through each of the locations, the border locations, and it was a surprisingly low number for a national rollout of technology.
Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Jacquet.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Can you hear the interpretation? Interpretation. So the problem is that a security service has to ensure follow-up of people who are coming and going. And we have to make sure that people who are coming in with documents with a name on it do not leave with a different name on a different passport. Here in Canada, we have the examples of refugees who have gone to, say, an immigration office, who have asked for documents with a false birth certificate, false driver's permit, have obtained that document, and then have crossed the border, been intercepted at the American border, let's say in Seattle, and there he was, ready to set off a bomb. What I want to know is, can our system protect us from that eventually? Can we control who's coming in and, more importantly, when they're leaving and if they're leaving or not? Let's say they don't leave. Do alarm bells go off somewhere?
Questions. You need integrity of the process all the way through. In one project that we're working on right now, when this sort of echoes here, the first thing to do is to make sure that when you're issuing that secure document that you actually have real, authentic breeder documents. Is your driver's license you're providing, is that an authentic driver's license or not? There's quite a lot in the way of security features on that driver's license. They can be easily authenticated or not. If you're using a passport as a breeder document, you can authenticate the breeder document for the passport. So if you take care, first of all, to make sure that the person can clearly say he is who he is, and then you capture the biometrics so that you link those biometrics to that identity, then you've made a big step, because now when that document is presented, the biometrics are authenticated at the border, we can tell whether that's the person or not. So we're helping to solve the problem of false documents, and then we're also helping to solve the problem that someone's using someone else's document.
Mais serez-vous capable de nous garantir?
Can you guarantee that someone who's coming in on a specific date will be, let's say, registered and then followed up on whether they leave or not?
Is a very important question. And right now in Canada, I don't believe we have exit controls.
Il n'y en a pas.
And if we don't have exit controls, then someone comes in and we don't know if they go out. In other countries where we're working, they're actually taking the pictures and capturing the image of people coming in, and then as they go out, they're checking that face image again against to see if it's the same person that came in. So other countries are facing that problem. We have not yet done that.
One other thing additionally that can be checked as someone exits, you can verify that they are the rightful holder of that document, or that the person who entered on that document is indeed the same person who left or is leaving on that same document. So you can guarantee there's no fraud upon entry then exit.
OK. Une dernière question.
Last question. In terms of data entry, I assume Interpol, for example, United Nations as well would require this. Let's say various justice departments that forbid people from leaving the country with a child, let's say family kidnappings. So I assume that once all that information is collected, then you can make that information secure. Are you able, for example, to prevent family kidnappings once you have that information? And are you able to ensure that the data that you're collecting will be secure and will not be available, let's say, to the public? Because there are computer pirates and hackers who are very good at what they do.
Start at the I think the example of family kidnappers is a good example to work with. If someone reports that a child is kidnapped, this would then be a flag to capture that child's face image and perhaps the parent's face image, if that's who you suspect, and then on the exit control, having cameras looking for those people. It would be very effective.
Thank you.
Can we guarantee? Probably not. Can we do very well? Yes.
Thank you. Mr. Lung.
Thank you, Chair, and welcome, gentlemen, to this hearing. My questions have to do more with, Canada is a multicultural country, and we have people coming in from all over the world. My question has to do more with the level of cultural sensitivity that is built into the system and how we address some of these issues. For example, people from Muslim countries could come in with names like Muhammad, and the name and the surname is all the same. You can have people with surnames like Osama, which is a Japanese surname as well as it is a Arabic surname. And you can have 18 million Mr. Zangs coming in from China. So in some of the Asian countries that I've been in, we see situations whereby they do use biometrics in addition to matching the original language, original native language, national language, whether it's Chinese or Arabic, with the English translation, which can vary over time. Or then there's another case like Mr. Lee, who is common to Chinese, Korean, and English surnames. The case in point is that if a person, or actually another one that's a great one is Mr. Singhs that are all over the Punjab. So if a person comes in Canada with that name, he goes back and he switches that with another person, how easy or how culturally sensitive are we to identifying those potential abuses, as well as being culturally sensitive to the fact that there is a lot of potential error that can surface from the commonalities of a complexity of dealing in multiple languages?
There are a number of questions embedded in that.
Yes.
Well, we started with cultural sensitivity, and what we've found is, in the case of face recognition, if that's your primary biometric for crossing a border, and if, say, in a Muslim country, they don't wish to have their face image taken, we would usually have as an alternative for the person to provide a fingerprint. And so we would still match that person from who they say they are to a biometric, but the cultural sensitivity would be you have your choice. What was the other natures of your question?
Dealing with the complexity
the different names, or the people with the same name.
Switching documents.
That's right. I mean, switching documents is common. But once you match the document to the biometric, face or finger, you can't switch the document without being found out. Because as soon as you put your passport down and take your picture or take your fingerprint, the discrepancy shows. With the e-passports, and almost all countries will have those, there are over 100 by the end of this year, that is embedded, the biometrics embedded on chip. It's very difficult to change that or make that adjustment as you are, if you're forging a document. So I think you've got really a big step forward in the ability to verify the person you're dealing with is the person they say they are, and whether their name's the same or not. Now, the last one was all of the different spellings of Muhammad or choose something. Most countries that we see have an ability to look not just at the one spelling, but an ability to search on the 112 spellings of Muhammad, you know, and I don't know if Canada has that, but I do know that England has that, or UK has that.
So within the technology that's available to you, or at least the software, you can say someone comes in with a name like Mr. Leung, there's probably 5 variations of how you can spell that, and you are able to spot that and then match that to appropriate fingerprint.
So there would be, well, I can speak for the UK system, and the way the UK system works is if there was a mismatch between the biometric and the spelling of the name, they would check to the other potential spellings of the name, just looking at trying to avoid confusion and facilitate the travel.
Thank you. Ms. James.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you to our guests. I actually found it interesting because a lot of what Mr. Bellew talked about are things that actually came out in our previous work on Bill C-31 with regards to biometrics and security in this country. And you've hit the nail on the head when you said that we're lacking a lot of exit controls in this country. And also the fact that we need to make sure of, who applies is who arrives, and who arrives is actually the person who they say they are. So I really appreciate.
And if they leave.
Absolutely. So I appreciated your comments because it really stresses the importance and the need that we have here in Canada to move forward with biometrics for the safety and security of our citizens. And I also I noted as you were speaking as well that you mentioned other countries like Australia and other countries we're compared against in so many ways are actually farther ahead than we are, and we're actually playing catch-up right now. So I really appreciate your comments on that. I'm going to ask you some questions regarding identity fraud. And I just wanted to know, in your opinion, how currently right now in Canada, I think I know what your answer is going to be from your testimony, but I just wanted to hear it again. In your opinion, how adequate, how capable is Canada right now, our government, in detecting multiple stolen or mistaken identities. And I know that you talked about someone who has come back into the country 17 times. So I'm pretty sure I know what your answer is going to be, but if you could elaborate on that, please.
I have no first-hand experience. I can only judge the system based on what I read in the newspapers, but I do see that there is a gap, that we're not. I've seen newspaper articles that say someone's left, someone's come back, they were let in, and CBSA said, well, that was because they had very good documents. So I think that, you know, the officer's doing the best he can. He's looking at that. He says that's a very good document. He doesn't have the tools that he needs to be able to make a better judgment.
Absolutely. So I appreciate your answer for that. Overall, what do you think the impact is right now on Canada and the security of Canadians right now in this country for not having those measures in place right now? If we were to delay this for whatever reason, what do you think the impact will be on Canada as a whole and our security?
Of course, it's unknown, isn't it? We just don't know who's coming across our borders. We just don't know when and how we're going to have a problem. So I don't think there's a good answer, but it's a worry.
I agree with you. I think it is a worry. I know my constituents in Scarborough Centre would also be very concerned about this. I know that I've had several letters come in from watching committee and some of the testimony that's come out in previous committee work. So it is an ongoing concern. I'm very thankful that we're moving ahead with our other bill. We've talked briefly, we had questions from the other side of the table and from my colleague on this side as well regarding the cost of actually moving forward and getting the fingerprints and all that. But what do you think the cost is to Canada, to the Canadian taxpayers, for instance, the person that's been deported 17 times? What do you think the cost of that would be for the government to have to track these people down, find them, take them through the court process, judicial process, and get them out of the country once again? I mean, that has to be an enormous cost and burden on Canadian taxpayers as a whole.
I would think it's verging on 7 figures to get someone out of the country. I don't have numbers, but that would be my impression, that every time you have to go through that process. But the other cost is criminal activity. And I don't know what that cost would be, but clearly it's not the actions that we want happening in our country.
I actually agree with you. You know, having the responsibility to represent my constituents and making sure their tax dollars are well spent. But to be honest, I'm more concerned about the crime and the criminal factor. So if someone's been charged with a serious crime enough to have them deported out of Canada, the fact that they're able to slip through the cracks and come back again and again and again, I think is even further proof that we need to proceed in this fashion and move forward with biometrics as quickly as possible.
Thank you. Our time has come to an end, and I want to thank you, Mr. Bell, and Mr. Anand, Monsieur Meunier, for taking the time, and your contribution has been very helpful to the committee in the preparation of our report. Thank you for coming. Before I suspend, the next part of the meeting will be in camera for confidential purposes. So the clerk will be asking all those who aren't supposed to be here not to be here. We suspend.